Growth and comfort do not and cannot coexist. Let me say that again. Growth and comfort do not and cannot coexist. When I say that, I'm reminded of many times where I wanted to implement change or try something new. I mean, if you know me, or if my friends were here, they would say, Haley likes to just push until it's her way. But I would argue them and say, no, I like to push until it's the right way. Or maybe the right way is my way, but that's neither here or there. Actually, I am a number 8 on the Enneagram. Shout out to my people who know their numbers on the Enneagram, right? And so we're naturally challengers and we try to implement change. But when I think about this, growth and comfort do not and cannot coexist. I'm reminded of times where I tried to push, I tried to change, I tried to create, I attempted to innovate. And I was told that people aren't ready for that type of change. And I began to think, how do we know what people are ready for if we don't start the race to begin with? But it didn't end there. You know what the rationale was? Like the real rationale, it was we've always done it that way. We've always done it that way. Friends, many of the barriers of entry, barriers to inclusion, barriers to learning, barriers to success, barriers to growth often begin with and end with, and not end with, but it's held down by we have always done it this way. And let me be clear, I'm guilty of it. I'm sure others are. You know what I'm saying? Give me a clap or a thumbs up if maybe you've been subject to that. We've always done it that way and you've been comfortable in something. It's easy to create something and get stuck. It's easy to just go along with what works. It's easy to just sit back and wait for somebody else to invent the wheel. But it takes heart. It takes passion. It takes dedication. It takes strong will. It takes resilience. Best believe it takes fortitude. It takes action to innovate. Moreover, it takes bravery and courage. For when the patterns are broken, new worlds and new opportunities can emerge. Today, we want to lift up the heroes. Heroes that just go around boasting about what they did or what they do. And often they don't even want to be called heroes. But today, we want to celebrate the campus-based professionals. And I'm here for it because I used to be a campus-based professional. So I'm here for the celebration, right? Raise a glass, water, or whatever you got. Everyone collectively, we want to celebrate much of what you do that goes unnoticed. And much of what you do, you don't expect to be rewarded or recognized because it's not what somebody told you to do, it's the right thing to do. It's what the students need, it's what advisors need, it's what our campuses need, it's what our communities need, it's what's needed, even when people don't realize it. Until 5 years later after they graduate and then they send you a text or a DM like, hey, remember that one time? I'm like, okay, that would have been nice to know when I did it. But today, we lift up the innovators. We lift up the game changers. We lift up the progress makers. We lift up the heroes, also known as campus-based professionals. Welcome. Happy Friday. We're glad to have you here on Fired Up Fridays. My name is Haley Mangrum, and I work with Fired Up and Technify, and I will be your co-host for today. And I'm joined here with none other than the wonderful, the great, a co-founder, our current president, Matt Matson, here today. And we have some friends, and he's going to talk about that. Well, we're so glad you're here. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Haley. I'm super excited about this session, this series of Fired Up Fridays sessions, because for most of the month of May, we're featuring not fired up voices, but voices, in fact, as Haley said, of heroes in the industry, people doing the work. And to be a hero in our industry, you don't have to do anything like that rattles cages. You don't have to do anything that makes the earth shake. You just got to do things. And the people on this session today that I'm about to introduce are absolutely doing those things. Also, man, shout out to the people who are in this session as attendees. There are some of my personal favorite, and some of the attendees in here, like, you're heroes to me in the work that you're doing out there. Man, just some of the people watching right now, Haley. I don't know if you've scrolled that list, but there's some serious players. We've got a nice group of people joining us today, and I'm so glad you're all here. Hey, before I introduce our guests, I want to point out the logistics of this webinar software that you're experiencing this Fired Up Friday session. Now, you're probably watching this live or recorded. If you're watching this recorded, you can't see the comments and you can't participate in the Q&A, but you can certainly learn from the wisdom of our guests that they're about to share. If you are here live, there's a couple things you need to know about. There's a Q&A feature. I think there's like a little bubble with a question mark in it or something. You can find that. You'll figure it out. And you can insert questions that our guests might be able to answer toward the end of our session today. There's also a chat feature that many of you have already seen. You're welcome to introduce yourself in there, engage in whatever dialogue you'd like within that chat feature. And then many of you are already clicking on those emojis. I'm surprised that nobody's been clicking on the heart eye emoji. Now that I came on the screen, I figured I'd get a bunch of that, but that's okay. Like, whatever emotions you're feeling, feel free to express them in any way that you want. Oh, I got a laughing one. I appreciate that. I got people laughing at me. Thanks, everybody. All right. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to bring in, we've got 5 guests, 5 campus-based professionals today that are going to share their wisdom with you. I'm about to bring them in and introduce them here in a second. And for much of the time, Haley and I, our face will not be visible, but we'll be sharing our voice and leading the dialogue as well. So just so you know, we're not going anywhere. We're just hiding our cameras to make sure that the attention is on the people that the attention should be on today. So now maybe this is a good moment for me to invite our guests to turn on their cameras and join me here on the screen. And I want to introduce who we've got here today. So you're starting to see a bunch of faces pop up on the screen. We've got 5 incredible guests from coast to coast today. Deixa, Freddie, Aubrey, Kevin, and Nick are all here. They all said yes to this wacky little invitation that we sent over. And so maybe it'd be cool if we could go around real quick and you all could just introduce yourself and just share maybe where you work, what your job is, and anything else you want to share. This isn't an icebreaker. We don't have to play the name game, but why don't we start? I got on my screen, I got Freddie. Freddie's up first. He's right next to my face. So Freddie, would you mind coming off of mute and just do a little intro?
Yeah. Hey, hey, everyone. My name is Freddie Juarez. I work at Florida State. I'm the Associate Director for Fraternity Sorority Life. And I've been there for quite a while working with our Planet community. Now I just do a lot of the curriculum development, tech, and pretty much anything else that falls on my plate because it's needed. So that's kind of my goal, just to do anything that needs help.
Thanks, Freddie. Aubrey, you're at Florida State too, and you're right next to Freddie on my screen, so that'll work out well.
Sure. Hi, guys. My name is Aubrey Nguyen. I am at Florida State too. Like Matt said, I'm a coordinator for fraternity and sorority life. Been at Florida State for the past few years. I'm currently pretending to be a chef during my home quarantine. So excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Aubrey. Hey, Nick O'Neill is joining us from the University of Idaho. Or probably from his home, but nonetheless, that's where that's who pays him. Nick, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning or afternoon, almost for I think most everyone else in the country. Happy to be here. Nick O'Neill, Director of Fraternity Sorority Life. I use pronouns he, him, his. And originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and so I thought about what would be the most Cleveland thing to say during my introduction, which would be that I'm still bitter about LeBron James leaving twice. So. That's my introduction for you, and glad to be here this morning.
They'll never get over it. They'll never get over it in Cleveland. We'll come back to the state of Ohio in a moment, but first let's dip down into the South. Let's go to Texas, everybody. Let's go to Kevin Saber. Kevin, you mind chiming in and introducing yourself?
Hey, friends. I'm Kevin Saber. I'm the Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life at the University of Texas at Dallas. I am New Orleans born and Texas raised, so I stay in the Southland for everything that I do. And this, slow living is a part of the South here. So if we just have to sit on the couch and do nothing, we're somewhat used to it.
We're all training for something most of our life, aren't we, Kevin? Well done. Thanks for being here. Let's go back up to the Midwest. Deixa, would you introduce yourself? You're the last person on my screen, but certainly not the last in our hearts today.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Deixa Harris. I'm the Assistant Director for Fraternity and Sorority Life at Miami University in Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio. I went to undergrad in Ohio. I went to grad school in Ohio. I am an Ohio girl at heart, where it was freezing today and extremely hot yesterday. So that's my life these days.
That's awesome. Thanks, Deixa, for being here. Thanks to everybody for being here. Before I go off camera, let me say one last thing. The folks who are invited here are certainly not the only professionals, campus-based professionals in the industry that we are constantly impressed by and want to uplift and celebrate. Maybe they're just the ones who responded to my email. Maybe that's what this is. But I think what we've done is we've curated a group of professionals from across the country who are working with students in different ways and on pretty different campuses. And all of them know and have focused on growth in some meaningful way in their work. And again, they don't have to have the perfect answer or the ideal like model that everybody else can copy. This is about learning from your thought processes, learning from the challenges that you're overcoming, and learning from your creativity. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then Haley's going to ask some questions, and we'll just listen to you all. You all get to be the star of our show for the rest of our time. First question is pretty simple. I'd love to hear from maybe all of you. Let's go around a full round robin on this question. But the first question is pretty simple. I think over the last couple of years, what are some of the most innovative ways your fraternity and sorority community has approached growth? And what I know is that each of you has some unique variation of a story, and kind of all in different ways, of how you've approached growth differently and through innovation. Feel free to share any or all of that now to open us up. Why don't we start, Deixa, since you were last to introduce yourself. Is it all right if I go to you first and maybe pose this question to you to lead us off?
Sure. So what I've learned about growth or any sort of change that you want to implement on your campus and with your students is that if you want something different, you have to try something different. I've worked at institutions where they've said, this is how we've always do it, so this is how we're going to continue to do it. And it's been a breath of fresh air working at Miami, where I can do innovative things and try new programs and try new ways to approach issues and growth and change within our community. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then we'll try something different. So it's been nice working for people and working for a university that respects change and they love innovation and they want to see innovation. So one of my everyday roles at Miami is working with NPHC. And I think across the nation, we just have a growth issue with NPHC in general. So one of the ways that I've approached it, and I'm approaching 1 year at Miami, so I've been able to see 2 semesters, if you would call this a semester, worth of students, the same students at Miami. So one of the things that I like to do when I start a role is just to observe and then tweak. So notice I said tweak and not change. I don't like to just come in and say, okay, we need to change this. This isn't working. I like to work with the students, see where they are, and see if we can tweak some things to make some things better. So last semester, NPHC during their week had an informational that told the students about their NPHC, and about 10 people showed up. So I was like, I know it's more people on this campus who's interested in NPHC, so how can we get these people here? So we tweaked it a little bit. We made it mandatory if you want to join an NPHC organization that you have to attend a seminar. So we didn't call it an informational, but a seminar where we taught people about NPHC and what it means to be a part of a historically African-American fraternity sorority. And we gave that historical perspective, and we gave the tools to know how to join an organization like NPHC and for underrepresented students, and understanding the literature that's out there to read and the research that's out there to do before you join an organization like that. So we completely changed the curriculum. And in the second semester, this semester, at the beginning of the semester, when we did that seminar, we had 90 people show up. And I didn't expect 90 people to show up. I wanted more than 10 there, but 90, I was like, wow, we don't even have a big enough room for this. So it was just a little tweak that we did to change the program to get that information out to the students. And it really helped tremendously. And I'm happy that we were able to get that done before we went to completely online and remote, because we were able to see the impact that we made on the students on our campus. And another thing is that data drives everything. So I made sure I did an assessment afterward to see what students thought about it, so that when we do this next semester, we can make it to where it is how they want it to be. So if it's not for the students and it's not something that they want, then they won't show up to it. So keeping that data in mind and making sure that everything you do is student driven and that students are around the table to help make those decisions.
Deixa, there was gold in what you just shared. I want to celebrate that was a tweak that was about culture change, right? And that was also, in my opinion, responsive to Generation Z demands. That is right. Like, let's turn this from an informational that looks like a promotional sales pitch into something that is a seminar that is professional, that is about my personal advancement, my personal development. And then, so many of the other things that you just shared, including the importance of data and being responsive to student demands. I really want to celebrate that, Deixa. Excellent start, man. Strong start to this Fired Up Friday, everybody. Let's bounce. I'm gonna stay on the order there. Everybody's showing up on my screen. So since I started bottom right, I'm gonna go over to Kevin. Kevin Saber at UT Dallas. You've got this fantastic community, super diverse community. Technologically focused students. Tell us a little bit about, over the last couple of years, some of the things that you've done to innovate growth for fraternity and sorority.
Well, you would think that Daisha and I were of hive mind right there, because she took the words right out of my mind. Data drives everything. You got to know what you know. You got to know what you don't know. You got to, take out the whole landscape of things. So you need to know, what are the things that your students like? What are the things that your students dislike? Where do they connect with people? How do they connect with people? The diversity of college students right now, their time is so valuable. And so we got to figure out, all right, how are they spending it? Where are they spending it? And then how can we connect that to our fraternity and sorority experience? So, we assess everything. We're wondering not only just program wise, but satisfaction. We tie everything to learning outcomes in our operations, and then go forward with those learning outcomes and seeing how they connect back to things. And so you don't get bogged down with the idea of, oh, are you trying to find out too much? Because you just know that all of that data, all of that information, once you put it in the right hands, somebody's going to run with it. And somebody's going to find that one fact, that one idea that really shapes how they want to go out and connect with people, how they want to go out and share their story on things. And so the data is the most precious thing that we have for that, because we need to know what our students want, really. And then we figure out what we can give them, and then we figure out if they liked what we gave them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevin, your community is, I'm excited to hear from you as we go through this, just to talk a little bit about some of the ways your individual chapters are adapting, some of the ways that you're looking at the difference between marketing and recruitment of introverts versus extroverts on a campus that might, at least anecdotally, have a lot of introverts, in how our organizations are often built in different ways. So excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Good opener. I appreciate it. Nick, how about you? You've made some cool tweaks, and you've been in my head, especially some of the conversations we've had about just some of the little things that you've done that have really had real results. Will you tell us a little bit about some of those?
Yeah, definitely. I think following my peers in front of me, I might need to work in something about data here. So I probably will plug that in at some point. But I think that for us, it was really taking a hard look at how our members join our organizations, and really dig down to the core level of that motivation to join. And often I think it's that story that we tell, the way we present ourselves, obviously marketing materials, all the things that we all know and practice. But I think on the flip side, the one piece that data ties in is we were discovering that, for a number of years, our potential members coming through our recruitment process for primarily our IFC and Panhellenic organizations were really not enjoying their experience. And I'll focus a little bit on our IFC population, that we were getting to the point of so structured as an IFC recruitment process that we might as well have been playing RFM specialist in the background, because I think that we were playing around with those numbers and the number of invites that chapters could have, and having our potential members maximize their options in some way to go through every chapter facility and visit with every chapter. And I think that for organizations that empower others to grow and lead and become who they are, to take away that agency was a big deal, and it definitely did not fly too well in the Northwest. And so what we did was really took a hard look at that assessment data coming in about the potential member experience during recruitment, and use that as our vehicle to scale back slowly on our formal structure. So in a world where a lot of our campuses are reacting and moving to a more formal structure, our success point rested in the fact that we were going to dial it back and return that agency to our students, and trust that if we're accepting a student into this university, they're an adult and they can navigate their process, they can make those decisions, and we can train our individuals in our chapters to present themselves and to market themselves and to build connections better, rather than having to have a structure that forces that to happen. And we saw, a great return on that investment in the time that we put towards that. Coming off of 2019, we were, staying about flatline after dipping down pretty far with our membership in IFC. And then this past fall in 2019, we grew 16.7% with different modifications and small tweaks, to borrow that word from our friend here, along the way. And so really happy and super proud of my fraternity men, and my entire community here for the changes that they're willing to go through and adapt to relevant times.
Thanks, Nick. Your community. Here's something I want to point out. The difference between Florida State, University of Idaho, UT Dallas, and Miami University is that is actually quite a wide range. I mean, certainly there are some other schools or types of institutions that are not represented here, but it's a pretty wide range of cultural differences, of size differences, historical differences, right? Like we got a big mix here. And so I'm excited for us to be able to talk about individual council growth, individual, organizational growth, but then also the overall idea of fraternity and advancing fraternity and sorority, giving this idea of a modern fraternity and sorority experience to more people. Let's jump up to Florida State, up at the top of my screen. You guys monopolized the top of my screen. I don't know if that was a power move that you all did. I don't know how you did it, but I like it. I like what you pulled off. Aubrey, can I come to you first? Just some of the things that you've seen, it being like some of the innovations. I feel like Florida State is full of innovations, some of which were because you had great ideas, some of which were because you needed to make some changes in the culture and the community across the board at Florida State. And been so grateful for that partnership. I'd just love for you to speak a little into some of those innovations, and then we'll bounce over to Freddie.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that I am proud of when I think about the growth in our community, and with the work that our professionals and our students are able to do, is our willingness to pull things from other places and identify where things are not working that we are currently stuck in, and saying, okay, we can't just stay in this bubble of doing what is working for Panhellenic councils, or what is working for IFC councils, or what is working for fraternity and sorority life or higher education, but how do we go into different areas and find the things that are working for different industries or different types of councils, and being willing to try those things out. So whether that is kind of talking about like the structured recruitment for IFC, whether that's pulling in the idea of having rush mentors who serve as recruitment counselor type individuals for our IFC groups, that has really helped increase retention and that connection, because we were seeing that working really well with our Panhellenic council at Florida State. And so we brought in some of that to the IFC side of things, or whether that's even just understanding and utilizing the worlds of training and development, or adult learning, or e-learning, and bringing those things into the work that we are doing, whether that's pre-membership or new membership, or just as we are recruiting and focusing on growth. Looking outside of higher education is something that we've really focused on, that I'm particularly proud of.
Yeah, you should be, and I know that's a passion of yours and Freddie's in your whole office, and it's something I've really admired in what you all do, like seeking guidance and wisdom from the outside world, from the business world, from adult learning, as you mentioned. Just I'm so impressed by some of the things that you've done. Freddie, can you build on that a little bit? Maybe talk about some of the other innovations that are happening down in Tallahassee.
Yeah, so I think Aubrey brought up a good point of everything that we've focused on is watching how other people and other companies, other industries are doing what they're doing. And one of the things that we kind of focused on for pre moving forward together plan pre 2017 and everything that we had to go through, we were building our chapters and working very heavily on supporting them and in their growth process. We were just focusing solely pretty much on them. And although we had a P&M orientation, we had a fired up speaker come in, speak, and it was great. And our recruitment counselors did some icebreakers and some name games with them and all that stuff. That was good, and our program was great, and it was running for the time. But we switched gears and said, how do we build our P&M? We started to see recruitment rush intake as opportunities for harm reduction and risk reduction. We started to say, if we can change and do a pivot before they join, could we change and alter the type of new member and ultimately the type of member they will become? And can we create culture change, not from pushing from the seniors down, but from pushing from the new member up? And that's what we focused on. We started to change our orientation process. Orientation now is day long, in person, conference style. We do harm reduction. We do the whole, and that's for all our councils. It's not just one. Traditionally, people just go with Panhellenic and say, okay, we formalize it, go for it, do your thing. But we have that. And then we started to think about over the last 2 years to start to say, well, what does it look like before they even get to us at orientation? Our narrative is out there as a fraternity and sorority life area community, not just Florida State. All our campuses are interlinked on this global sphere. And TikTok right now is even more of a pain in that, because you got these people that are disgruntled that will just go on and do a TikTok and just hammer out and trash every chapter that we've got. So we look to our community, we look to ourselves and say, how do we take back the narrative? How do we give them this information? Because the parents, the families, the students, they're seeking the information. So if we don't give them the information, they're going to go to the vlogger that's telling them about all the great things that they can do and their cute outfit that they need to wear, and how they need to not pretend that they have interest in anything if they even hope to go into MPAC and MGC. And sometimes information for those two councils are even scarce. And so we don't want it to be that this student, like myself, I'm a first generation college student. I had no idea what fraternity or sorority was if it wasn't for someone that came out and said, hey, you want to know about this thing called fraternity, and offered me a burger. I wouldn't probably be here right now, like, to be honest. And so how are we reaching those students? So we took a pivot and said, we're gonna continue to work on our chapters, but we need to build up our P&Ms. We need to give them all the information they need. So we started to develop online orientations before I think online orientations were cool, in this land of COVID-19 stuff. So we've been kind of building up to this for kind of years. We started out some things, we went out, we outsourced, and then we said, well, price is expensive, and so we need to do some in-source type stuff. And we started to build it until we are now, where we're like dabbling straight into instructional design and training and development fields to kind of learn and tap into that. And we've said, okay, well, we're going to have an all-in orientation. It's going to be different. It's going to be different for every single organization, for every different council, because everyone has a different nuance. Even MGC and MPHC that sometimes get kind of pushed in together just because they're culturally based groups, but there's nuances between both of those groups. So, and then we're going to bring students in, and they're going to help us build this. We try to treat them like subject matter experts and ask, what would have been nice for you to know, or what did you learn from that vlogger down the street that's YouTubing and getting thousands and thousands of likes? And then we kind of built our own stuff and said, okay, well, we need to put some risk reduction in here too. We got to put some other things. And so that's kind of the path that we're on, is that we're trying to redesign how we do the pre-new member education experience for all our councils and everybody that's interested and not interested. And hopefully we can change some minds, especially around family members, which are a lot harder to change from a perspective than the student. So, we're trying to kind of figure out what that looks like right now. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thanks, Freddie. When you were talking about you wouldn't have known about fraternity until somebody invited you out for a burger, mine was similar, except it wasn't a burger, it was a party. So there's that. Shout out to the Deltas. They showed me how to have a good time. So here we are, right? It paid off and it worked off really well. But I began thinking as you were talking, you're talking about the pre-member experience. And oftentimes we don't put enough energy and effort into that experience. It's almost like we focus so much on, okay, the new member education, or how are we going to change this process? How are we going to do this? But what are we doing to onboard them before they even become a member, before they even express interest, right? Before they even learn about our organizations. And so we talk a lot about using this pre-member experience to create healthier and safer organizations. What ways are you all doing that you're most proud of? Nick, I'm going to call on you. So when we talk about the pre-member experience to create healthier and safer organizations, what ways are you doing that make you proud?
Yeah. I love this question because I read everything that has been said about that pre-member experience, and it really resonates with me. So I think I'm reading a book, or I just finished a book actually, about the power of dissent in business and in life. And um, I think the full title is In Defense of Troublemakers, The Power of Dissent in Business and in Life. And I think that what it teaches us is that when we always program, we always educate to the majority, and we don't focus on that the minority opinion, which is truly the opinion that is trying to move the needle in some way and move us towards a direction of change and a community of change. And so I think that the targeting our new members and providing that education is exactly where we've focused as well as a campus. And so we offer a Vandal phase, is what we call it, Vandal Fraternity and Sorority Education. It's a day-long conference experience that involves an opening keynote session, closing keynote session, and then up to 77, I believe, education blocks that are offered through various partnerships with our campus partners, our off-campus partners, alumni. We've even had family members come in to do some sort of a parent and family panel about the support that your family can offer to you during your collegiate experience, especially in a fraternity and sorority. And so I think that super proud of our community for doing that, and what we've learned through that, through again assessment and surveying and making sure that we're aligning with our learning outcomes, is that the conversations we're having are making an impact. We're having conversations about toxic masculinity with individuals that have not even joined a fraternity yet, and we're having conversations about healthy alcohol use, substance use, mental health awareness, those types of things. And so incredibly proud of our community for doing that. In light of the current circumstances, we're not sure what that is going to look like this year, of course, like all of our campuses. And so the route that we're taking is a little bit more tailored. And we developed for our IFC community, we have IFC recruitment specialist. You can insert recruitment counselor into that title as well. Same for Panhellenic, and then our MGC officers help us with this. That our students that are signing up and indicating their interest in fraternity and sorority need frequent and early contact with us to make that a successful transition from their home life to campus, knowing that how much disruption has been experienced in the recent time. And so we have our students reaching out as mentors to anywhere from 5 to 6 potential members. Over the summer, they'll build them into a recruitment group and have them connect with each other to even build that up even further and develop some group identity with that and connection. And then when they come to campus, we're hoping that by the time they step foot on our campus, they have some really great foundation and understanding of our community expectations and where they can make a true difference in our community as well.
Love that, Nick. I always talk to students about, specifically when you talked about we're already educating them on the front end. I think that's so key. And we know that's key, right? Because I joke around with students and I say, if I learned before I was a member that on Wednesdays we wear red socks, and you just do that because that's what the founders did back in the day. And so we wear these red socks. Best believe I'm gonna wear some red socks. And I don't even like socks, but be clear, I wear socks when I'm like wearing tennis shoes or whatever. But I just, we would do that because we were told that that's what it means to be a member of XYZ. That's how you behave. That is a normative behavior. And so we have to continue to invest, you know what I'm saying, in the education, in the resources on the front end before people walk into our organizations. Freddie, you mentioned something earlier in talking about the pre-member experience and making it healthier and safer. And specifically, you talked about how people often lump MGC and MPHC together. And so I'm wondering, in what ways is Florida State offering opportunities that are distinct? Like, what ways are you specifying healthy and safety, like education or whatever it may be for MPHC or MGC. Maybe you or Aubrey can touch on that.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I think even harm looks differently for both of those. Like that whole risk reduction piece that we're trying to do. A party, nobody will ever confuse, oh, that's an IFC party and that's an MPAC party. But most people think MPAC and MGC even party the same, that they have the same type of issues. I don't have to have conversation with MGC about juice. I don't. They, even when they try to kind of entertain that juice or their own little cocktail kind of exists, it's different from how a party in MPAC originates and how linked and tied to the Black community it is at Florida State. Whereas with MGC, we have to kind of, there's our Asian American interest organizations, there's our Latinx or Latino organizations. We've got organizations that are multicultural, that don't identify one way, but structurally they look a certain way and identify, even though their organization says they're multicultural. So, I mean, there's lots of interesting nuances to that. And they're not always as connected to those ethnic communities as our MPHC might be connected specifically with our Black community, or even their ties to BSU and some of the other organizations that are supporting Black students on college campuses. Both are great, both are awesome, but we can't sit here and just kind of brush it with one stroke. And so we started to do our risk reductions separately, right? And trying to kind of understand that sometimes, and we're in Florida, so we have a heavy Latino population that's coming from South Florida, and there's differences in Latinx organizations and Latinx populations too. The Latino from Miami is very different from the Latino in Chicago, which is very different from the Latino in Los Angeles. And so, some of these students don't know fraternity and sorority because they are first generation college students, most of them, in a way that's different from how MPAC is connected to the Black community as a whole, right? Delta Sigma Theta, like there are a lot of Black individuals that know and understand the brand and the recognition. The same won't be for LTA. So as a Latin sorority. So we kind of have to kind of unravel some of that. And we approach it from some of the things that they're facing. And the two major issues after we kind of talk to the students and say, what is it that you think your organizations are struggling with the most? There's three things that come out, and they're very similar in how they show up in other organizations, but it's alcohol, and it's sexual assault, and it's mental health. And so those became the three things that we're going to target in supporting them prior to them joining, and then also supporting them once they do join. And we went to them, to set them up with hey, this is cocaine and don't do it, wasn't working with them because that wasn't the group that was managing that. They were really struggling with, they don't understand what goes into that garbage can with a garbage bag and a full of punch or whatever they want to call it, and they put it in there. They don't know what's in there. And so how does that affect your BAC? And the fact that you think you were drugged, but really you just took that, and that has like 5 or 7 different types of liquor, and you just drank 1 cup of it and you chugged it down, and now you're blacking out or browning out. And how does that impact your experience? And then what does your brotherhood, sisterhood, what do the friends around you have to do in supporting you? What is that? Because we know with that, especially with people of color, our communities are based on community and that leadership piece. And so what call do you have as a leader to support your community in that regard? So there's a lot of how we approached it from that perspective. Prior to them coming in, teaching them some things that they don't get. A Panhellenic organization gets ASTP, but we never think about doing that with MPAC or MGC. At least it's not always thought of. And so, we went out and we got certified as ASTP people on our campus, and then said, well, how do we build a custom ASTP session that's more geared towards them, that they're going to listen to and hear? I'm not talking about, an insert cocktail here. I have to help them understand their, insert drink here that they're making. You have to kind of tie everything in. And then how do we help our people that are interested in those organizations to understand that piece too? And then hazing, it's its own subcategory that we educate every council on, because hazing also looks different from all those councils. So we were kind of approaching it from, how do we individualize? How do we tailor it so that even the same message is the same, from the same bystander pieces, the same BAC talks, the same kind of conversations about sexual assault, and we do Green Dot on our campus, but tailored within their context, because they weren't listening to us prior to it, right? If they don't see themselves in it, then they're not going to listen to you. So that's kind of our approach and what we've done. I don't know if you have anything to add, Aubrey.
The only thing that I would say is that I think that a piece that has really helped across all four councils too has been bringing in external stakeholders to understand how these issues are affecting their organization. So whether that's sitting down with chapter advisors and saying, what are you noticing with your NEOs, with your new members, and they're seeing retention issues that are stemming from not understanding the expectations that come with membership in their organization. They're seeing a lack of care and bystander intervention. And so being able to talk with advisors, with chapter leaders, even with different headquarters partners, and having calls with them and seeing what kind of education are you providing your new members that we can try to supplement and add into before they're even joining any of our organizations has been something that has really helped us shape the curriculum that we wanted to focus on.
Yeah, thanks to both of you for that insight. I think pre-member education, P&M, potential member education, whatever we want to call it, all the education that happens before somebody shows interest or somebody shows up to quote unquote recruitment. Florida State is leading the industry by everything I can see. You all are innovating in cool ways, in ways that I can't keep up with. And every time I have a phone call with you, I'm learning constantly about smart, cool, technologically innovative, like you're experimenting right now, and for good reason. And I think it's working. I think another thing that you didn't talk about is, on the IFC side of Florida State, the data that you acquire in the registration process by itself. I think we don't know what to do with that yet, but longitudinally having deep data on P&Ms to determine propensity for risk eventually. You can't do anything until you start collecting that good data on the front end, and you all have been doing that for a few years now, and I just want to lift that up. Hey, I want to turn the channel for a moment, maybe talk about COVID-19 response and talk about, in the last couple months, what are you all doing differently to, especially growth related, right? Like, what are you doing differently, growth related, to respond to this moment? Deixa, if it's all right, I might turn to you, and then I'll go to Kevin. But I'm just curious, anything that you're doing to pivot right now, just recently, any technological stuff you're doing, what are ways you're teaching, empowering, removing barriers for your students to be able to grow given all the uncertainty? I'm not even sure that was a question that I prepared you for, but Deixa, I thought I might just turn to you first, see if you've got anything going on there at Miami.
Yeah, it's been pretty simple for me because I run our office's Instagram. So I run MU Greeks, and I just came up with some ways to engage with our students. And I came up with MU Greeks week. So we do like a week every week, and the days are the same. So like Monday we'll do tag a MU Greek, and we'll do different prompts every week. But my absolute favorite has been Talent Tuesday. We've reached out to a couple of students for some recommendations and said, hey, we heard you had a talent. Would you like to be featured on Talent Tuesday? So we feature like 2 to 3 students every Tuesday. And we have some really talented Greeks in our community that we didn't even know could do certain things. And it's opened up the door for more Greeks to come in and kind of see that they're being recognized and how can they be recognized too. So then we'll have a bunch of DMs like, hey, I can do this. Can I be featured? And we're like, hell yeah, like, let me know, send me a picture. So we've been able to engage with our students and feature them and feature the things that they can do that doesn't have anything to do with fraternity and sorority life. And I think for me, social media has been the best way to connect with them because they're like really sick of reading emails. I am too, so I know they are. But so like social media is a way that I've tried to engage with them, and it's been really working, and I've got really great feedback. Another good thing is like Miami University has like a Miami University class of 2024. So I've been stalking that page and following everyone. So like if you get a follow from MU Greeks and you're not even at Miami yet, like then we're going to be on your radar. You're going to follow us back. You're going to say, okay, this is something Miami related, so I'm going to follow it. So just getting those students on our radar as well, and they're not even on ground yet, has been good for us to kind of contribute to that growth of our fraternity and sorority community.
Oh, Dacia, you're singing a fun song right now. Just that little tactic, but the fact that you're choosing to execute that from the MU Greeks account in particular, like I really want to celebrate that. That is a step beyond, I think, where most professionals are right now, and the fact that you're diving into that and choosing to engage with those students. I mean, this is just, I wouldn't overthink this. This isn't like that's not even recruitment. That's just student engagement. That's the stuff that we're trained for, right? That's the stuff that, and we have an opportunity to do that above and beyond right now with students who haven't even shown up yet. And as soon as we build that connection, we've given them a pathway that they can walk down to find us if we happen to be the home that they are going to find in the fall. I love that, Dacia. Good stuff. Kevin, can I turn to you? How are you all pivoting right now in this moment? Related to growth? Are there any specific things that you've started to execute?
Well, first off, Canva has become our best friend during this time, just because what the lack of creativity sometimes that we would have, discovering that tool helped us out to engage on social media more and more. But the biggest, I would say, pivot that we did was really focusing on investing in that retention aspect of connecting with our students that we already know are in are in the community. We have a deep feeling that community is going to be the thing that incoming students want. Is that you're going to have a group of seniors who are leaving high school who had their idea or their feeling of community jolted because of this, and they are going to enter into a new community. And so we want to make sure that the students in the fraternity and sorority community at UT Dallas understand community the best on our campus and understand it. Like, no matter what, they are able to describe what community means. And so that means we have to check on the foundation of that now. So that means that the fringe members that we would have that we know aren't being reached out to, that we're empowering chapter leaders, that we're empowering the university, that we're empowering our community to touch in with those individuals, so that you remember that, wow, in this weirdest time, the thing that made me have that strongest sense of normalcy was my fraternity or my sorority. And then in turn, we hope that when it comes time to where the students can tap into their social networks, social media, things like that, when they're meeting those newest individuals, that conversation is going to come up of, hey, what was your summer like? What was that last semester like? And our students are going to be the ones who, after that initial, yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it? Are going to be able to say, but I love that I got to connect so much with my brothers and my sisters. I love that I got to, that we hosted Netflix parties, that we had Zoom yoga sessions, that that Instagram Live was our favorite tool to use and go on. And, every fraternity man became an amateur DJ every Thursday night and was sharing that. And so we really doubled down on, it might seem like older concepts of, do you have your phone tree going? Are you going out and calling and connecting with your members? Are you going out and making sure that, hey, your newest members that you brought into this, that they're still feeling that warm embrace of fraternity or sorority? And we doubled down on the meetings that we were having and making sure that, yes, they could take place over the phone, but we want to see your face. We want you to see our faces. We want to know that you're doing good and everything that's happening. I champion one of my peers who said they are getting tired of emails. So a lot of our work was being done through group meets.
Kevin just froze for me. I don't know if he froze for anybody else, but he was dropping some gold there. Uh, I want to call out one thing in particular. He was just he named Canva early as a tool to just do some design work, basically. But one of the reasons I want to celebrate that is this is a moment to turn up the volume of the amount of stuff we're pushing out on social media, the amount of stuff we're putting in front of our potential members and incoming students and parents. And waiting on institutional marketing or whoever we often turn to for some of the stuff that we're used to might delay us in some pretty real ways right now that could be obstacles. So I really want to celebrate some of that just core stuff Kevin was talking about. Execute, go. Don't dial back on meetings, dial up on meetings. Don't post less, post more. I really love that, Kevin. Good stuff. Nick, can I turn to you, and then we'll see if Haley's got time to ask any other questions, or Haley, I'll leave it to you after Nick answers real quick. But maybe Nick, I know for sure you guys are doing some cool stuff right now. I even got a text message from one of your students yesterday sending me one of the videos that he made talking about the value of fraternity. But can you talk a little bit about some of the ways that you all are pivoting right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think in troubling times, the mark of a good organization, a good company, a good community, to Kevin's word that he's using there, that is going to be those that tell the story of what we did to take care of our own during this time, and that's going to be the biggest selling factor to our incoming students and our family members. And so we've done a number of things. One being the videos that Matt referenced of let's get rid of the hashtag Go Greek, Go Vandals. Let's get rid of all those things that we typically shout from the rooftops, and let's give a true personal touch of why fraternity or sorority means something to you. And so those videos have been really great. They're still pouring in to the point where we're trying to navigate which channels we put them on and spread them out amongst all of the social media handles that we have. And so I think the next part is just the webinar series that we put together is probably one of my favorite things. And we're not talking about your normal webinar series. We're talking something open to the public that a lot of our incoming students were participating in. We held one in particular that I loved, which was we had parents of our current members join us on a Zoom webinar and share their story about supporting their student through their membership experience. What are things that they wish they can go back and do again? What are questions they should have been asking? What are ways that they could have supported their students? And we had a good number of our parents and family members for incoming students join us that evening. We were also able to offer English to Spanish translation for that meeting by asking the right people to be there present with us and give a full community view of what we've done, what our parents have already experienced for the support during this time for their students, so that our incoming students know the quality of the community that they're joining.
Hey Nick, I want to comment on that Spanish to English translation. Just a little nugget. That was one little note that becomes wildly important. Obviously, regionally, it's probably more important just by numbers, but for everywhere, it's important right now, and it's becoming more and more important. And that's stuff that I wish I don't know how to do that enough, even in the stuff that our company delivers. But I think especially as we're talking about promoting fraternity and sorority to incoming students and parents, and we know the demographics are changing dramatically, and we know so many parents didn't attend university or didn't attend university here in the U.S. for so many of the schools represented on this call, for that matter. Like finding ways to tweak and just those little tactical moves suddenly open up a door that felt closed before. So I really want to celebrate that. Hey, we're getting close to the end of time. I want to bring Haley back on the mic. You can turn on your camera too if you want, Haley. But anything to close us out, or any other last questions you want to throw out? I don't know what you're thinking out there, Haley.
The only thing I would ask, and thank you all, I think that last thing was gold. I'm like, can I just write about that right now? But we're not going to do that. I think what we can focus on now is there are a lot of professionals on the call right now, and there will probably be more professionals watching this, or emerging professionals, grad students, right, watching and tuning into this at their leisure. I wonder, and Aubrey, I'm going to ask you first because I see you like nodding your head a lot. What advice would you have for campus-based professionals or people that are in this work? What can they do? What piece of motivation or what can they look forward to during this coronavirus? And maybe some changes may have to happen to recruitment or what we're currently doing, but what pieces of motivation or what advice would you share with some professionals?
When I'm thinking about just myself, the thing that is keeping me going and excited and motivated is the hope and the vision of being back and working with the students that I am currently missing and that I am spending hours on Zoom calls with, and just the excitement that they have for doing things differently and being willing to jump in and say, hey, we have literally no idea what Panhellenic recruitment is about to look like in 2 months, but we can figure out some different options. And we don't have the ability to make solid or concrete plans right now. But if we are talking about member retention in the fall semester, here are the things that we need to be thinking about. And so I think that the biggest piece of motivation that I'm finding is asking those questions of the students that I'm working with, of what are the things that you are already looking forward to and thinking about in regards to the fall semester, whether that's adapting the events that we are doing, whether that is understanding that we're probably going to have a really interesting group of high school seniors entering our college communities who are feeling as though they had all of that celebration cut short. And so we're anticipating that their first semester in college might be even more wild than a normal first semester could look like for some people. And so finding those things that the students are thinking about, the perspectives that they are hearing, has been my biggest motivation to think about things a little bit differently, to figure out what is it that we are missing in some in-person things that we can do online now, whether that's through Instagram or through online orientations or through these sessions we're providing for parents and families through the school's orientation. And so really turning to the students to ask those questions and see what they're thinking of, because they're on a totally different wavelength than we are professionally, and that's using that to our advantage is the best thing that we can do.
Thank you for that. I'm like, my stuff is not working. Literally was just on the call. I just want to shout out Tyler Manning at SIUE. His students did, Panhellenic students did a preview day, and they were already going to do it. And they're like, you know what, we'll just take it virtual. And they did it. And it was the students' idea. And so I think putting like what you're saying, and then also what Deixa said earlier when she kicked us off, it's like, it's not about me, it's about the students. What do the students want? Right? Just like our recruitment processes are not about our chapters, it's about what the P&Ms want or what they desire. And so thank you all for sharing. I think that's so key and so important. Matt Madsen, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And let's close out by echoing that thought. These are examples of professionals on the screen right now, examples of professionals who put students first, but also show up to practically help students, like to help make their life easier. I say this all the time, that this is the hardest time ever for us to be asking these 19, 20-year-old students to run these 100-year-old organizations in times of conflict and times of wild uncertainty and times of just difficulty. And you all are doing exactly what I hope our company is doing, and what I encourage professionals around the industry to do, and that is practically help make their lives easier right now. We've heard so many examples, and I know that each of you, I know stories of each of you doing really simple, practical, helpful things that are small tweaks that are true innovations in making fraternity and sorority easier for our student leaders. Hey, I want to call out that there's a big slide on the screen. Everybody's head just got smaller, just like that. Later, like in an hour or something like that. In an hour, we've got another Fired Up Friday session. This time with some folks from headquarters. We actually have we've got a representative from Napa. We've got Delta Sigma Phi and AD Pi professionals. So we've got three cool professionals, all with cool voices, great educators, great communicators. That'll happen in about an hour at 3 p.m. Eastern time. You'll notice on May 15th, May 22nd, and May 29th, we've got more Fired Up Friday sessions happening. The 15th and 22nd both will feature student voices. We're excited about those. That one on the 22nd might be a little wacky. I don't know how that's going to shake out. I'm excited about that idea. There's some cool stuff. And then on the 29th, we're trying to speak to a different audience, one that I think sometimes, honestly, we have a hard time finding. And there are all these housing corporation volunteers and just key stakeholders that aren't plugged into the same channels that many campus-based professionals or headquarters professionals are often plugged into. So we're finding some cool partnerships to be able to plug in to some of those as well. And I think that'll be valuable for everybody. So I'm excited about these upcoming Fired Up Fridays. I'm so grateful to our industry for allowing us to do this and giving us space, and so grateful to our guests today for joining us and just sharing your wisdom and being kind and generous to show up in this space with no real reward, except for we just made you famous, I guess. We made you famous to everybody who watched this and everybody who will. So most of you are already famous, as famous as we get in this industry. So thank you so much to all of you. Everybody, thanks for attending. Man, so glad you're here. If you need anything, firedup.com is a good place to go to find a bunch of free stuff, or just email or call us or let us know what you need. To our guests, thank you again. Everybody else, stay fired up. Bye-bye, everybody.